competitive level. I would say like D plus, C minus kind of
Mhm.
player. Literally have not picked up a cue in a decade.
Okay.
2 years ago, got in a plane crash, had a really bad spinal cord injury. Was told like I'd never walk again, I'd never be able to use my arms again, like that kind of thing. Was in the hospital for 2 months, like
Yeah.
really rough. Obviously things went better than,
Yeah,
than
that's
we
great.
anticipated.
That's
Like
fantastic.
got
Yeah.
super lucky with that. But actually, my spinal doc told me a list of activities that like I should get back into to try to get kind of hand-eye coordination back and figured out. Like I'm
Mhm.
still kind of figuring out how to use my arms and legs.
Mhm.
And pool was on that list, and so I was like, hey, that
Right.
sounds like a fun kind of thing to
So
get back into.
he's okay with bending
So
over
yeah,
the table?
no
and that kind of
limitations to bending, twisting. I can
Okay.
do whatever I need to do.
stuff? All right.
Um,
What would you say your mobility's like?
I would say it's pretty much fine.
Okay.
You'll see like bending at the hips. Sometimes I have to like use my back to bend more than I normally would.
Okay.
But pretty much fine. I definitely will use a bridge for harder shots. Then
Sure.
I won't be leaning super far over the table. But yeah, so I have still not played a game of pool. This will be literally my first time on a table in 10 or 12 years, but
Alright.
I kind of wanted to come to someone who knew what they were doing because it's kind of like fresh start, right?
Sure,
I'd rather not create bad habits. I'd rather just get it right from the start.
Okay. Cool. Well, we'll start with the fundamentals, and we'll just kind of go from there.
Perfect.
I see you don't have your own cues, so
I do not.
I do have cues.
Perfect.
So. Let's use this one here. And tell you what, we'll just start off with you hitting some balls, and I can just kind of watch and give me an idea. I mean, I know you say you're beginner level, but
Yeah.
some people are more natural than others. Other
Sure.
people are like, I got to start from the very basics. So
Yeah.
just want to see where I need to start
Mm-hmm.
to get you going. So just to get on the table here and just hit some random balls. You can pick up the ball, put it wherever you want to. Takes I'm not really watching your shots as much as I'm watching your stance and all that
Sure.
kind of stuff. So. So you got this down pretty good.
I don't know about that.
You'd be surprised at some of the beginners that I work with. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. I'm just, compared to a lot of people I've seen play. You have a good instinct for the game.
Thanks.
Alright, you lose, lesson over, you
Yep.
scratch. Alright, well I think I have a good idea. Honestly, you look like you have a lot of the fundamentals down. For somebody who hasn't shot at all, that's pretty amazing. How much did you say you shot before the last time you played?
I mean, so I played a lot in college.
Okay.
I was like a close to daily player throughout
Okay.
college.
Okay.
Again, never competing, but just
Sure.
a lot of bar nights.
Okay.
Probably more nights
That
than I
probably,
should.
yeah, that explains. You've got the fundamentals down, and honestly, I mean, I went 2 years without playing during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I went from playing almost every day, teaching, playing in leagues, playing in tournaments to nothing. Never even picked up my cue for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Got back on the table and man, I could not. I was so much better. It's like all my bad habits were gone, but all the fundamental stuff was still there. Yeah, it's like riding a bicycle, but now I forgot all the bad habits. You know, because I was focused on really making sure that I had all the fundamentals down and everything, and I was just like on fire. You know. So,
Mm-hmm.
and I've been running that way since, so it's fantastic.
Yeah, great.
So yeah, let me kind of we'll kind of go over the fundamentals, the things that you need to be aware of. I think you've got them down pretty well, but just so that you're aware of them. So if you get to a point where you're having some trouble with some aspect of your game, you can kind of return back to the fundamentals and think about the things that I'm going to show you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So when we talk about fundamentals, those are the 4 basic things that we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Your stance, you want to be comfortable. Your back foot should be in line with the cue. It looks like you're naturally getting into that position. Excuse me. You want to be generally 45 degrees, but it really differs for you being taller. You might have a different stance than somebody shorter than you.
Yeah.
Snooker players play with a 90 degree only because the table's so big it allows them to get up as close as possible to the shot.
Mm-hmm.
So they've adapted to that. But most pool players will have about a 45 degrees. Some will be a little more closed. We call this closed when you're turned this way, or maybe a little more open stance. So whatever's comfortable, right? Whatever gets your back foot, your elbow, your shoulder, and your vision center, which is basically wherever your vision center is basically, if you've ever seen anybody get down on a shot, it just where your vision, of course you have 2 eyes, right? So it's where your vision sees the center of this shot. For some people, that's right in the middle. For other people, it might be more right eye aligned or more left eye aligned. You look like you're about in the middle. Most people are, but some people just have a more dominant eye, and they'll kind of drift to one side or the other, and that'll be their vision center. So when I talk about vision center, I'm just talking about your eyes, the center of the vision of your eyes being over the stick.
Okay.
You want all of that to be in a straight line. The reason for that being that the ultimate goal is to have a nice straight stroke, so you're not doing this, right? You want a very, very deliberate straight stroke. So when you aim and then you finally deliver your shot, it's exactly where you aimed, right? A lot of times, you'll aim a shot like this, it's straight in. And if you don't have everything just right, it might be a little off, right? So we don't want that. We want everything in a straight line. Looks like you've got that pretty well. So, your bridge, do you do a closed bridge?
No, I do an open bridge.
Okay, do you know how to do a closed bridge?
I do, but it never has felt comfortable for me. I've always found it, this is how I learned to do a closed bridge, and I always found it had a lot of friction on the stroke.
Right. It does. I actually use a glove. That way every single shot has exactly the same the same feel, and it also allows the shaft to slide through your hands a lot easier. You can do that. You can use powder. You can try to adjust your. You don't have to use a closed bridge every time. If you're going to do a shot where you're not hitting in the center, so you're doing a draw shot hitting low, follow shot hitting high, or putting English left or right on it, you usually want a closed bridge.
Okay. Less
chance of a miscue that way, because if it's open, the cue has, it can go anywhere.
Sure.
When it's closed, it can't go anywhere.
Yeah.
Right? You might still miscue, but there's a much less chance of that happening with a closed bridge. So if you're coming up here on this one here, you want a lot of low left on it, and use a closed bridge. Deliver straight through. If you had an open bridge, there's a really good chance you might miscue that.
Yeah.
So it might be a good idea for you to learn how to do the closed bridge. Your
Okay.
closed bridge looks fine. Some ways that you can adjust, I noticed that you do the wrap kind of thing. That's one way to do it. Another way is, and that's the way I do it, is I actually take my fingertips and put them together and then kind of bend my fingers so that you can see there's a gap there, but I have them kind of turned to a point where where the cue is secured. The nice thing about that, with yours, with a wrap, you have to loosen up the wrap a little bit in order for it not to slide as much, right?
Yeah.
For me, all I have to do is just adjust it to the side a little bit.
I see.
Here, it's real easy.
So you do that by putting fingers together and
Put
then
my fingers together like this, and then kind of bend them this way.
bend them this way.
Right.
I'm lefty, so everything's
Yeah,
backwards.
exactly.
Sorry.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's kind of hard to explain, but you can see, like, this is the closed bridge that you're using, which is, there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
Right? A lot of people use a bridge like that, but I learned to use my fingertips. Right. Now, it's possible for it to move around. So what I do is I kind of squeeze up my fingers and kind of twist it just enough so that there's no side to side motion there. You see that?
Yeah. I see. I see it, but it's
Yeah, if you're not used to it, it's kind of uncomfortable.
like that. Is that the?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's how I do it. Yeah.
Okay. Oh yeah.
So that's an option.
Okay.
My personal recommendation is if you're going to get into playing,
Yeah.
if you don't have a cue, I would recommend getting a cue.
Yeah.
I would definitely recommend getting a glove.
Okay.
They have these gloves, and these gloves will run you about $20-25. These are really nice. They've got the Velcro on them, you know, and you know it's a really nice glove.
Okay.
And it just covers the 3 fingers. It doesn't
Yeah.
cover the fingertips, so that you can still get the tactile feel of the table. When they're covered, it's a little bit different. You can try that on if you like.
Yeah.
I
Is
don't
it
know how-
ambidextrous?
No, it's not actually, but it'll give you an idea what it feels like. It's a tight fit, so don't worry about that.
And this goes over pointer and middle.
And the thumb. Yep. It's a nice snug fit.
Yeah. Super.
Yeah. Now if you, I know if you just
Yeah.
try a right-handed stroke, and you'll see what I'm talking about though. See how it slides.
Oh
through.
yeah, it's totally
You see
different.
that?
Yeah.
And it's consistent. Feels like that every single time.
Sure.
If you're in a bar and it's really humid, you know,
Yeah.
you're gonna get a little more stickiness. You might have to use some powder. You put the powder on, now it slides nicely, but the powder doesn't last forever. So you just get that variance all the time. For the glove, it's the same every single time.
Okay.
So.
And can you send me home with brand recommendations both for cue and glove?
Absolutely, I'll send you an email and give you recommendations to where to find the gloves. That's a Q-Tech glove. Kamui makes one. Predator makes one. This is my Kamui glove. You can see they're very similar. It's got the Velcro. That's actually Aurora's glove. But then they've got a couple of different ones in here. I've got my Predator glove. Again, Velcro. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very, very similar. This one's actually a larger size than the other one. Where did I put it? I just put it there.
Over on your wine fridge.
Yeah, it's a little bit. This one's a little bit more snug, and I actually like the snug one a lot better. So that's Kamui. Kamui makes they make chalk, and they make different accessories, and they make gloves. Predator makes everything. Predator makes tables. This is a Predator cue stick. Predator case. They make everything. And then you've got these. Oops. Where are you? There's another Predator. Here we go. So this is probably what I recommend, and you're welcome to use this today
Okay.
if you want. That is, I believe, Sir Joseph glove is what that one is.
Thanks.
But it's ambidextrous because it could be put on
Sure.
either way.
Yeah.
So you can put that on your right hand. These are a lot cheaper, but they're a good way to get into using a glove.
Sure.
If you don't like the fingertips being covered, you can just cut those off.
Sure.
The glove might start fraying after a while,
Sure.
but I like it without the fingertips, so.
Yeah, it is so so different.
Yeah.
It's really crazy.
Yeah. So, yeah, you're welcome to use that.
Okay.
And,
Yeah.
so yeah, closed bridge, looks like you have that down, and your closed bridge is probably just fine with the glove.
Yeah.
So I don't think we really need to work on changing that too much.
Okay.
I told you the different option.
Mhm.
There's also another closed bridge that I recommend when we're working on draw shots.
Okay.
And that is a fist bridge, but it's also a closed bridge, but instead of this,
Mhm.
you close all of these fingers and put your fingers, your knuckles, and your thumb on the
Okay.
table.
That's just to get lower.
Exactly. You'll notice my tip cannot come up any higher than this, right?
Yeah.
As long as my hand is on the table, I can't lift this up.
Yeah.
And that's really good for draw shots when you're up close, because it forces you to stay low.
Sure. So
It's a
that-
good way to learn it. It's not something that you need to use every time.
So these three fingers literally stay the same, and it's just pull these fingers in.
Yeah, exactly. And, well, go ahead and get that back down there. So, it's not just those, you wanna put your knuckles of those fingers on the table, and your thumb stays on the table. There you go. That's a fist bridge. You notice how low that tip is.
Yeah.
And the longer your bridge is,
The lower it'll
the
go.
lower it is. Sometimes I stick my pinky out. As long as the knuckles of of your middle finger and your thumb are on the table, it doesn't matter. This feels a little more stable to me. It doesn't matter if it's in or out, either way. But you'll notice that I'm close and the bridge is very low.
Yeah.
And as I pull back, it touches the table.
Yeah.
We don't want that, because then you scoop the ball, right? So it forces you to be a little closer and be really low. So, that's the fist bridge. It's just another variation of the closed bridge.
Mhm.
Okay. So, back to fundamentals. Bridge, I think we got that down. The stance, we're good on that one. The other one is, well, we've got the stroke and we've got the grip. Let's talk about the grip first, because then we put everything together and then you're actually getting ready to shoot the ball.
Mhm.
So your grip, go ahead and get down on the shot. Okay, we'll take a look. So you'll notice that your grip, you've got a full fist grip.
Mhm.
The problem with this,
Mhm.
go ahead and move your hand back and forth as you're gripping like that. You'll notice that your wrist actually has to bend.
Yeah.
Because in order for the stick to move back and forth, you see that?
Yeah.
Your wrist has to actually bend. We don't want that.
Okay.
We want as few joints in your body, especially the ball joints.
Mhm.
The hinge joints, like your fingers and your elbow, those don't move. The only
Sure.
reason these move side to side is because your shoulder rotates, right?
Yeah.
Other than that, this is a hinge joint,
Mhm.
which is great. Problem is your wrist is a ball joint.
Sure.
It can go all kinds of different ways. So we want to lock that down.
Okay.
We want to lock the shoulder down. So the only thing moving is your elbow,
Okay.
right? Well, how do we do that if we're gripping like this? If we're gripping like this, we can't move the cue
Yeah.
without moving our wrist, right?
Yeah.
But if I'm holding with just a couple of fingers, like say these two,
Mhm.
now look what I can do.
I
can
see.
keep my wrist locked, but now I've got all that. I've got a joint. My joint is actually between the stick and my fingers.
Yeah.
That's where the joint is.
Yeah.
Sometimes what I actually use is these. It's a little bit more advanced, but I think it gives me a little bit more control. I use these fingers. The other ones can rest on the stick,
Mhm.
but you're not gripping the stick. You're keeping your wrist locked, right? So if you watch me on this ball, you see how my wrist doesn't move?
Yep.
Or if it does, it's very, very little. It's just this finger and this finger touching it. These other ones are kind of loose. And I still have enough of a grip to really, be able to push that stick through the ball.
Yeah.
On a break, you need a little bit stronger grip. That's okay. I'll still, on a break shot, I actually use these two fingers, believe it or not, along with this one kind of resting on it. when I'm braking, this is what I do. I brake like this, and then as I'm doing it, I'm gripping, and then I follow through with more of a grip.
Okay.
It's kind of a complicated motion, but it just is what gives me the most control and the most power. So that, because through the brake, I don't want the cue to slip.
Sure.
And believe it or not, I actually use what's called a slip grip on most of my shots. So as I'm getting down on a shot, I know my cue very well. You'll see pros do this all the time, but a lot of players do this. They can hold their cue like this, and they can bring it up and grab it right where they need to, just because they're just so used to it, right?
Sure.
So I can slip it into the position I need, and then as I'm down on the shot, you can see that I have a slip there. It's very loose until I get my elbow straight up and down at the moment of contact, or as close to contact as possible, right? Straight up and down on my, because what I'm doing is, that's the back end of my stroke, that's the forward end of my stroke, right? The middle of my stroke is the moment I hit the ball. So the middle of my stroke is when my back arm is straight up and down. Take a couple practice strokes, got that loose slip grip, mainly these two fingers. So try that. Try, if anything of all of the fundamentals, I think that's the part that it will probably take the most time for you to get used to.
Yeah. And so, should those front fingers be like locked on the stick though?
Yes,
or I
yes.
should
You
be letting it
don't
slip?
you don't want any gap there.
Okay.
You definitely want it around the stick. But go ahead and just hold the stick up here. Just hold it up. Now grip it with just that hand, just those two fingers. Go here. Okay. Grip tight, and don't move your wrist. Right. Notice it can move around. Right.
Yep.
So a nice firm grip, whatever you feel comfortable with, is fine.
Okay.
And we definitely want no air gap in there.
Okay.
Okay, so we don't want to be doing this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
When I talk about a slip grip, even with my slip grip, there's no gap there. It's just
Sure.
loose enough that I can slip and adjust my grip on here.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
You don't need to worry about a slip grip.
Yeah.
Find a good spot. Get on the shot. Get the bridge exactly where you want to be. Whether you want to be close for a soft shot, farther away for a harder shot. We'll talk about that. Once you're there, then you can adjust your back arm so it's straight up and down. See that? Because if I'm closer, notice my back arm is now farther back.
Sure.
If I move here, now it's farther up.
Yep.
So I'm going to get my bridge first, then I'm going to adjust this straight up and down. And believe it or not, every shot you shoot, whether it's a soft shot with a short bridge, a harder shot with a longer bridge, the distance between your bridge point and your point here is going to be the same every time.
Okay.
Okay? Because you're here, this is straight up and down. If I'm closer, you're here, and this is straight up and down.
Yeah.
It's the same distance.
Yeah, it makes sense. Your wingspan
It's
is
just-
what your wingspan
Right.
is.
It's just, okay, now I need to be back here, let's move the cue up.
Sure.
But my back arm is still the same distance away from my front. That
Yeah.
makes sense.
Makes sense.
So, straight up and down on the back, grip with just two fingers. I would recommend starting with these,
that is-
and then try these later and see if that's more comfortable for you. Because it's kind of nice having these two fingers and then kind of just barely touching the cue with the other ones. It still allows you to do the pivot, but you have more touch, right?
Sure.
It just feels like you have more control over the stick that way.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
All right, so let's hit a few more balls and kind of keep all of that stuff in mind. And then
Okay.
we'll talk about the stroke. Your stroke looks pretty good, so we won't need to work on that too much.
Yeah, although I do notice that sometimes, and maybe this relates to my grip, I definitely have a tendency to like scoop my stroke. Like I feel very unstable this way, even if I'm more stable that way. If
Okay.
that makes sense. It feels so strange.
It does. Yes, I know. And remember, you're gripping like this, you're not doing this. Okay. Nice, nice, that's good. So, let's talk about the stroke.
Okay.
Your stroke was fantastic, now it's degraded a little bit.
I'm
And that's
thinking about
not-
8 other things.
Exactly. Think about learning all of this stuff like you're driving a car, right? Let's say you drove a car a long time ago, but you've kind of forgotten almost everything.
Yeah.
And you had a few bad habits, so we're trying to correct those bad habits.
Yeah.
When you first learn to drive a car, you're getting in the car, your instructor's telling you everything that you need to do. You need to adjust your mirrors, you need to put your seatbelt on. You hands at 10 and 2, you know, if you're driving a stick especially, you need to you need to know how to push the clutch in and all that kind of stuff and shift the gears, check your side view mirrors. When you're pulling out into traffic, you gotta think about looking over your shoulder, but don't look too long, you know, it's just a quick glance. I mean, everything they throw at you, right?
Yeah.
And you're just like overwhelmed. Now, when it's time for you to come over here for your pool lesson, what do? You look up the directions, you get in your car and you drive over here. You don't think about any of that, you just know how to do it. And that's really what we're trying to do. With the fundamentals especially, we're trying to get you to a point where you just naturally do those things just because that feels the most comfortable for you.
Yeah.
So keep doing this stuff even if it doesn't feel that comfortable until that's all you know how to do.
Sure.
You know, it just becomes a comfort thing.
Yep.
So riding your bike was super simple and then you got in a car, it's completely different, right?
Yeah.
But after a while, that became second nature to you. So,
Okay.
So the stroke, what you really want to do on your stroke is you want to have pretty consistent. And a lot of this stuff we're going to be going over when we talk about the pre-shot routine, because they kind of go hand in hand. When you have the fundamentals down, adding all the steps for your pre-shot routine, part of that is going to be your practice strokes and all of that. Ultimately, what you want is you want your stroke to go smoothly through the ball, follow through, stop at the end of your shot, allow the shot to happen without moving, right? And you want it to be smooth. You don't want to poke, right? You don't want a fast backswing, because then going from the fast backswing to a poke, you're gonna get a lot of lateral motion,
Mm-hmm.
right? The whole idea behind this is to keep everything rigid and just move your forearm, right? That hinge joint doing all the work, right? So you get down for a shot, and we'll talk about the aim and all that kind of stuff in a bit, but you're down on your shot, take a few practice strokes, and then when you deliver, you pull all the way back to where, as far back as you need to get the speed that you want. If you're doing a softer shot, it's going to be like this, right? But whichever shot you're trying to do at the end of your stroke, kind of pull it back, stay down on your shot until the ball goes into the pocket, but at the very least until the cue ball hits the object ball.
Mm-hmm.
That'll teach you to stay down, and if you stay down, you're not jumping up, you're not lifting up your cue, because the problem that can happen is if you don't discipline yourself to stay down and you come up on your shots, sometimes it's fine, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Other times, you might come up and miss, or miscue across the top of the ball, right? You don't know.
Yeah.
But if you stay down, even if you come up 2 seconds later, if you force yourself to stay down, you're always going to go through the ball and never worry about, missing the ball or miscuing off the top of the ball or something like that. Let's try a couple shots. Go ahead. Just take some shots, some straight in shots. You can take ball in hand. Just Just focusing on the stroke. Good. Let me ask you a question about that. The stroke looked good.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. When you got down on that shot, how did it feel?
It felt like I had gotten down on it at the wrong angle, and I corrected with my shoulder.
And you still missed.
Yeah.
We're gonna fix that. That's good. Try to make sure that when you, on your forward stroke that you follow through. Your follow through, don't over follow through. Okay? You notice that when I do that, my elbow drops.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that. I want to keep my elbow in the same spot. But your follow through will usually bring the tip into the table because your back. See my back, my forearm. My hand is actually coming up to my chest. You see that?
Mm-hmm.
Just because it naturally wants to roll up that way. So that's what's going to happen. You'll notice that when I break, I'm playing a lot of 9-ball.
Mm-hmm.
I break from this position.
Mm-hmm.
You see all this?
Yeah.
That's from the cue. Naturally, on my break, hitting the table.
Okay.
Right? That's what you want. It doesn't have to hit the table,
Mm-hmm.
but ideally, what you want is to bring your back hand up to your chest and just keep it there. Boom, that's a good shot, right?
Like that?
So first of all, let's try to keep your cue as level as possible. So you want to exactly drop your bridge down, and if this is close to the table every time, that's the best position. There you go. Now follow through. Don't lift up your cue. Don't lift up your body. Stay down on the shot. Level cue. Level it out. Level it out. There you go.
I guess I'm confused if I'm leveling out the cue, how the tip will ever get down towards the table.
Oh, it will. You're not trying to put the tip in the table. What
Yeah.
you're doing, you have to understand that the cue is not going in a straight line, okay? This is what it's doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the natural stroke.
Yeah.
Because your back arm is a pendulum, right? Back of the stroke is up here, the middle of your stroke is level, and then the end of your stroke comes back up again. It just naturally will do that. Right?
Okay.
You're not trying to drive the cue into the. You're not driving it in a straight line down into the table.
I see.
So you see how level I am right here?
Yeah.
See how I'm touching the table now?
Yeah.
Just naturally will do that.
That's
Keep it as
perfect.
level as possible and follow through, and you'll see what happens. Don't poke. Just go ahead and follow all the way through. Your hand should come up to your chest. It should at least touch your chest a little bit. See that?
Yeah.
It'll naturally do that. Keep your cue as level as possible. At the moment of contact is really where it needs to be level. That is going to lead into us talking about follow shots and draw shots. In order to do a good draw shot, you need to hit low and you need to be as level as possible. And you can see when I do that, do a little bit of an angle so it doesn't come back and hit my cue. But when I do that, level as possible, my tip hits the table, right? So those are the two parts of your fundamentals, I think, that you'll probably need the most work and the most practice just to get used to.
Yeah.
One, that grip, changing your grip so you're not doing the fist grip, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're just doing just 2 fingers, and then keep level as possible on your stroke, nice and smooth on your stroke. We'll talk about, so when we get to the pre-shot routine, we're actually going to talk about the routine of the stroke, which is everything from getting down on the shot to taking practice strokes and then going through. So So now let's talk about, it's really, it's kind of a part of the aiming and part of the pre-shot routine, but getting on the ball to shoot. Now the problem that you were having was you just got down and then you realized you weren't lined up and then you had to adjust.
Yep.
What we're going to do is we're going to get lined up before we ever address the ball. Okay? And the way we do that okay, so come back here and you can see that this is not a straight in shot. It's almost straight, but it's not quite straight.
Yep.
So you can see that you need to hit the cue ball right there.
Yep.
Right? So your line of aim is like this, right? To where this ball is, and we'll talk about the different methods of aiming, but let's just talk about as if we're using the ghost ball. This helps visualize it a little bit better. And I know you got this down because you were making a lot of balls, so I know you got the aim down pretty well. But just so we can visualize it, you're aiming through the center of that ghost ball right there, right?
Yep.
So now you have the line. You have the line that you want to shoot. Being up over the top of the ball, up here, actually allows you to see where that ball needs to go first. Believe it or not, aiming like you're aiming down a rifle down here doesn't necessarily allow you to see the 3D nature of what you're trying to do.
Okay.
If you're aiming at a single point, like you're shooting a target with a gun, then yeah, line of sight is perfect. And it is also good for once you've got that target, you figured out exactly what that target's going to be, then get down and shoot it through that target. But you can actually see this a lot better. So if you come over here, you can just see it, right?
Yep.
And so what you want to do is you want to get your cue on that line.
Okay.
Right? And then you want to step into the shot, or you might already be at the shot, whatever. But your back foot's going to be in line with that. Then you're going to take your cue and you're going to drop it on that line. Right? Pretend that there's a groove right along the line of aim. Imagine if you came and you were lined up with that groove and put your cue in that groove, it's going to go right into it, right? Perfectly. But let's say you came down and you're not in that groove. How do you get in that groove? Now you've got to twist your cue, you've got to move it around. How do you get that into the groove, right?
Yeah.
Especially since you can't see the groove.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The best way to do this is to be behind the shot, visualize it, drop the cue right on that line, and now you're in that line. Now you can just focus on delivering the stroke. Okay?
Okay.
Let's give that a try. You don't want to approach, just so you know, you don't want to approach, you don't want to be looking at it like this. This isn't like golf. I don't know if you play golf.
I don't.
Okay, good. Because that'll give you a bad habit. You know, you're like looking at the line where you want to hit the ball, and then you got to come around to the side of the ball and line it up. We're not doing that.
Okay.
What we're doing is we're lining it up, and our center, our vision center, is right over the top of that line.
Okay.
We're keeping our vision center there,
Yeah.
and we're just dropping our vision center and the cue right on that line. So we're not approaching it from the side like this.
Okay.
Okay.
Like that? That it doesn't feel.
If it doesn't feel right, then you're not on
Yeah.
the line. Just get back up. So come back here. I mean, get right behind it. Get right behind it so you can actually see the line. There you go. Okay, so make sure that your vision center is right over the top of that, and then just step right into that line. How's that feel?
Much better.
There's another concept that I like to use. So this is going to take you some time to get there because you haven't played in so long, and you need to build up your catalog of shots. Made shots, missed shots, you just need to shoot and let your brain catalog them all, right? Because you're gonna get to a point where you're gonna, this is right here, hit a million balls, right? When we learn how to play the game, the very first thing that I do is, especially a beginner who's never played before, I teach them how to aim. And I'll teach them the ghost ball method, right? Mm-hmm. And I'll say, pretend that there's a ball right there. You need to put the cue ball in that exact spot. You need to visualize the center of that ball, and you need to aim for it. Now, a lot of times it's hard to do that because without a ball there, is the center right there? Is the center right there? Yeah. Is the center right there? And for this shot, it might not be that bad. For this shot on the side, it's not that bad at all because you know you got a lot of margin for error. Yeah. But you know when you're shooting this shot, sure. Then is that the center or is that the center? Because that's going to make it. That's going to miss by a mile, right? Very small margin for error there. So then I teach them more advanced methods, contact point to contact point, overlapping balls, all that kind of stuff. There's different ways to learn how to aim. Mm-hmm. But until they actually get down on the shot and just try it, just shoot it again, shoot it again. Set up, you know, with these little paper reinforcements. Set the shot up and just shoot it over and over and over again. I'm not thinking to myself, oh, well, I aimed at the edge of the ball, I need to aim a quarter of an inch beyond the edge or a quarter of an inch inside the edge, or I'm not trying any of that. I'm just hitting it, and each time I'm trying to let my brain figure it out by instinct, by feel. Mm-hmm. Shoot the shot, and if I miss, if I make it, doesn't matter. My subconscious is just going to catalog it, right? Mm-hmm. Over time, it's going to help me, and I'm going to be able to get down on a shot. And now that concept that I'm talking about is red light, green light, right? When I get down on a shot and I'm ready to shoot, I'm ready to pull the trigger, or I want to pull the trigger, last thing I ask myself is red light or green light, right? Mm-hmm. Red light, and I don't like it. So it may require a micro adjustment while I'm down, or it might require that I just get back up, redo everything, go through my pre-shot routine, get back down on the shot. Do I have a green light? I do. Now it doesn't mean I'm going to make it necessarily, but my subconscious is telling me go for it. Mm-hmm. And I've done that shot enough times that I'm pretty confident I'm going to make it. But the trick to this is be confident. Sure. Be confident as you possibly can. I'm going to make this, right? The moment you don't have that confidence, that's your subconscious yelling at you saying, red light, red light, red light. Yeah. Right? Get back up, try it again. So when we're getting down on the shot, and we're getting in the line of the aim, it doesn't feel right, stand back up, realign yourself, get back down. Because I asked you before you shot that shot, I said, how's that feel? And you said, it feels good. That's your subconscious saying green light. Yeah. Right? Now, you're not starting with a blank slate. You have played before. Mm-hmm. It's just your memory's not that great, but your subconscious has a great memory, right? And that's why you were able to hit so many balls in and do well right at the beginning without having played for years. So listen to your subconscious. Listen to that assessment.
So when you talk about lining up, do you line up like from where you think the ghost ball is, or?
Yeah. So the way I play. Yeah. And I've done the hit a million balls. I'm there, right? I've played so long. Doesn't mean I'm as good as the pros are, but I'm darn close as far as being able to make balls. So what I first do is I'm looking at the line of the shot, mm-hmm. right? My contact point is just on the inside of that little circle there. Mm-hmm. But, you know, I don't always have something concrete. I can just visualize the contact point. Yeah. Right? I visualize that contact point. I know where the contact point is on this one. I don't even really think about contact point to contact point. I just know I need to make that ball hit that contact point, and I just know it's right there, right?
Okay.
I just know that. So first thing is my line of the shot. My second one is my line of aim to get the cue ball to hit that contact point just right.
Okay.
So step one, step two, in line with the shot, green light, I'm good. Just like that. So if you are using a ghost ball methodology, if that's the methodology that works for you, then yes, what you're doing is you're coming back here, and you're going and lining up the shot, and I'm imagining where the ghost ball needs to be for that shot.
Okay.
Right? And then I'm taking the cue, again lining up to exactly where that ghost ball was. Right? I can see it, I can see the line, and I drop my cue right on that line. If I'm over here, I'm not trying to bend over and put it over. I don't want to try to lean over and find that line. I want to be on that line. And as long as my back foot is in the right spot, I just step straight forward into the shot, and everything's lined up.
I mean, visually,
The best thing for you to do, I think, is to step back a little bit. You don't want to be up on top of it like this, because then you're trying to sidestep into the line of aim.
Okay.
Okay. I don't want you to do that. I want you to be back here. I want you to see that. That way you can, when you sidestep into the line of the aim, you're way back here, and you can step into the shot and drop the cue into that line.
Sure. It's just putting so much thought to something that has been so intuitive.
Well, you haven't. When you're shooting, you're not thinking about those things. Now
Yeah.
I'm making you think about those things. It's just you're learning to drive the car again.
Yeah.
Now, red light or green light? Honestly, you have got to be honest with yourself.
Honestly, this feels right.
Okay, then that's good. Then shoot it. There you go. And believe it or not, if honestly it feels right and you miss, it's not a bad thing. It really isn't.
Sure.
Because your
Teaches you
subconscious,
something.
your subconscious is going to catalog that. Next time, it's gonna automatically adjust you and go, no, I don't have a green light this time. I got a yellow light this time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Sorry, I feel like I'm taking 3 hours to drop into each of these shots.
It's fine. You got to get used to the concepts. Not bad. We're going for center of the pocket, so even if you make it, I don't want you to just simply say, "Oh, good, I made it. Next shot."
Yeah.
Think to yourself, just so that thinking to yourself exactly what happened is just like you taking notes and giving it to your subconscious, saying, "Here's a note. I did overcut that one.
Yeah.
Right? It didn't hit the heart of the pocket. It hit the rail first.
Yeah.
That's fine. You know, and if you're playing a game, that's great. You get to shoot again, but
Sure.
you still want your subconscious to know that it wasn't exactly on target.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's okay. You hit a few of these, and all of a sudden you'll find that next thing you know, you're actually hitting the heart of the pocket. Just don't try to compensate. Don't try to consciously compensate by hitting it. Oh, I hit that one too. I cut it too much. I'm going to try and cut it a lot less. Don't
Sure.
do that. Just always try to make it as if you're starting from scratch. That was less of the rail. Did you see that?
Yeah.
And don't be afraid to step back. Step back. When you step back, you can kind of see the whole table that way.
Mm-hmm.
Because one of the other things you're gonna be thinking about, one of the things you're gonna be adding to your pre-shot routine in your repertoire is not just figuring out the aim and how to make that ball, but where is the cue ball going to go?
Yeah.
Where is it going next, right? Stepping back allows you to see the whole table. You're not just looking at the aim of the shot, you're looking at the next ball you have to shoot, right?
Mm-hmm.
So are you gonna hit that and make it go way full up this way, or are you gonna hit it and have it come straight across? You know, you're thinking about those things, and stepping back and seeing the whole table allows you to see the big picture.
Yeah.
Then as you're stepping into the shot, you're zooming in on exactly what you have to do.
Yep.
Nice. How'd that feel?
Much better.
Yeah, you're starting to feel that green light, right?
Yep.
You can actually kind of feel your subconscious telling you, yeah, you got this, good job, you know. That's good. So let's step into the pre-shot routine, which is all part of this. So, what is the pre-shot routine? It's a routine that you do on every single shot. The reason for doing it is to get you to a point of zen, basically. It's a point of what we call being in the zone, right? You're not really even thinking of anything. This is you driving to the store and forgetting how you got there, forgetting the journey. You're at the store, you're buying your groceries, and you're like, you never once thought about any of the stoplights you stopped at, or the pedestrians you avoided, or anything like that. You just went,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're in the zone.
Yep.
Right? That's kind of what we're trying to do with pool. You know, when I'm playing 9-ball here, and I've got to make these next 3 balls, I'm thinking to myself, I'm not thinking about the aim line and the stance and getting behind it and the stroke and the grip and the bridge and all that other stuff that you're thinking about because we just talked about it. What I'm thinking about is, I need the cue ball right about there. I prefer an angle. I might even go into the rail and come back out because I can control it a little better that way. So I'm just going to get down on the shot, and I'm going to try and hit the rail and come back out. And now I have that angle that I want. Now I can just stun it, come straight down and hit the 3 next. And I just get down on my shot. And that's how I run a table. That, you know, I'm always thinking three shots ahead. My next my 4 is right here, right? My 5 is down there. So I'm going to shoot the cue and have it come back out to the middle of the table. I'm going to shoot the 4, have it come out, maybe get positioned up here for the 5. That's all I'm doing. Is I'm not thinking about all the other stuff. And why is that? Because on every single shot, I'm grabbing the chalk, I'm thinking about what I'm going to do, I'm looking at my tip to make sure that it's covered. I'm walking around the table. Sometimes I walk all the way around the table just to see all the angles, right? Put down the chalk close to where I'm going to be. I get behind the shot. I visualize it. I get down on my shot. Grab my chalk, and I'm doing exactly the same thing on my next shot. I'm looking at my shot, I'm looking 3 shots ahead, so, you know, from the 5 I need to get down to the 6, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking for the 4 I need to be on either side of this, what's the easiest one to do, you know, probably over here, so I'm going to try and get position there. I'm not really thinking about anything else except where the cue ball needs to go and how to make the 4. Put down my chalk. Get behind the shot, get down on my shot. It's deeper than I wanted, but it doesn't matter. I'm still going to go through my routine. And now I have to adjust. Am I going to do a cut? Am I going to do a kick? It just really depends on where the 6 is, you know.
Yeah.
So I mean that's That's what I'm doing. Chalking up is part of it. Everything that you do between shooting a shot and shooting the next shot, that's your pre-shot routine, right?
Mhm.
Everything before you shoot the shot, after you shoot the shot, you start your next shot, you're doing your pre-shot routine. And it's the same thing every single time. You don't have to chalk, especially if you have good chalk like this, you don't have to chalk every single time, but you should be looking at your tip. If there's any bare spots there, chalk them up and put your chalk down, get behind your shot. Same thing. That's part of the routine. That's what the whole routine is about. And the whole reason behind that is to get to a point where you get to a point where you sink the 9 and then suddenly realize that there's no more balls on the table. You arrived at the grocery store and forgot how to get there, or forgot how you arrived, right?
Mhm.
You will remember every single shot. You'll play the whole game back in your, believe it or not, it's crazy. When you do this, when you're in the zone, you're not even thinking about it,
Mhm.
you'll be able to go back and play that entire game in your head. Exactly how it went. I could go back a week later and say, oh yeah, in this one game, you know, this is how the balls were all set up and this is what happened, and I can usually recount, especially if it was a very significant game, like the last game and I won the set, or you know, it was a great game, but I dogged the 9, so all of a sudden my memory of this game is right. So
Yep.
pre-shot routine, all about getting in the zone. Okay.
Okay.
And it helps you to enforce all the good habits, and make them part of your routine, part of the habit that you always chalk, right?
Mhm.
Always have your chalk. Always want to make sure, because you know sometimes you might miscue. You know, if you miscue, there's going to be that little bold spot on there,
Mhm.
right? So every time I chalk, I look. Oh look, you know, I've got a little bit. I'm not sitting here grinding the chalk on there. I'm just using it like a paintbrush and just kind of covering up those spots, and that's it. Now I don't have to worry about the chalk, but I still carry the chalk around with me. I personally have a magnet that I carry when I'm playing, you know, in tournaments or leagues and stuff. So it always goes there. I'm always pulling it off. Boom, boom, boom. When I get down for my shot, it just goes right back on there, and then I shoot. So it's always with me. But you'll see most people who don't do that, they have the chalk with them, they keep it on the table with them. When they're done, they take the chalk off the table and go back to their seat. So, pre-shot routine. Make sense?
Makes sense.
Okay. But you hit a few balls. In any order, it doesn't matter. We're not playing 9-ball here, just hit a few balls. But think about those things.
Sure.
Now remember, all of your steps. So if you're shooting the 6,
Yeah.
look at the line of the shot first.
Mhm.
Come look at the line of the shot first. Okay, there you go. And step back. Step into the line of the aim. Bring your cue down on that line. And the best way to ask about the red light or green light is to stop, put the tip as close to the ball as possible, and look at that whole lineup. Make sure everything looks good. If it does, then take your practice strokes and then deliver.
I feel like I'm gonna undercut a little bit.
Let's see what happens.
Okay.
And it's okay, even if you're dead on and you were fine.
Yeah.
It's okay to get back up. If you don't have that green light, get back up, and you know you should feel comfortable. Sometimes your cue might be lined up properly,
Mhm.
but maybe your back foot is off a little bit,
Mhm.
and you're a tiny bit off balance, and that's what you're reading. You're not reading that the cue is offline. You're just reading that you just don't feel the same as you do on every shot, where you're right behind the shot, you're balanced, everything is good. So sometimes you just need to get up and just readjust yourself.
Sure. Yeah, it is funny how little of a routine I have. You're
Mhm.
right. I just like want to move on to the next shot.
I mean, we are creatures of habit.
Yeah.
So when you're playing pool with your buddies and you're at the bar and you're
Yeah.
drinking and oh, it's your turn. Oh, okay. And you grab your stick, you come up and you're just looking. Boom, you go and shoot and you miss and you go back and sit down, right?
Yeah.
If you're, you know, the next time you get up to shoot, you do something completely different. There's no habit there.
Yeah.
There's no feeling of rote, right?
Yeah.
When you're playing in a league and you're getting up to the table and you're starting to get better and you're making 3 and 4 balls in a row, maybe you're not running the table, but you're making 3 or 4 balls in a row, and maybe you play safe and then you go back to your seat. Wait for your opponent to shoot. When you're waiting for your opponent to shoot, you're not goofing off with your friends, you're not drinking a beer, you're not
Yeah.
drinking a beer, but you're watching the table,
Yeah.
right? You're analyzing the table. Well, if they miss, what am I going to do? You know, what balls do I need to break out? You're analyzing, and you're still in that mode. So when you get back up to the table, you're just right back into that same routine, that same rote, right? And it's a lot different than when you're playing with your friends and it's not serious. At least before now,
Yeah.
you're just kind of bumbling around.
Yep.
Right. After now, when you start to get used to this, you're going to start playing, and even when you're playing with your friends, when you get to the table, you're going to start going through these routines and doing the same thing, and all of a sudden your friends are going to be standing there like, dude, you're running the table, man. You're going to let us shoot, you know?
Yeah.
And you're not even thinking about it. You're just
Yeah.
going through the same routine every
Yeah.
single time.
Yeah.
And that routine is what allows you to, because part of that routine is pocketing the ball.
Yeah.
There's nothing, it's like this rhythm, ka-chunk, 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 ka-chunk. The ball's just going in and everything else is just part of that routine. And when you're in the zone, man, it's a wonderful thing. Very nice. By the way, we have water and snacks.
Speaking of not playing decent position.
Hey, every shot's the same, believe it or not. Some require a little more accuracy than others, but every shot is the same. Same routine, figure out what you need to do. So what are you going to do on this one?
If I were playing this, I would probably bank here.
Okay.
Because I think risk of scratching if I cut into that corner is very high.
Now, if
Scratching
you're gonna-
into the side pocket.
If you're going to bank, do you know how to calculate the bank? Or are you just
no,
guessing?
by sheer intuition.
Okay. We don't have to really cover that in today's lesson, but what you want to do, there's a couple of different ways to do this. One is to look at the angle, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I shoot it here, the angle in is going to equal the angle out.
Mm-hmm.
So if I shoot it right here, it's going to come out here. Is that lined up to the pocket?
No, it'll end up here.
If I shoot towards this diamond right here,
Mm-hmm.
and it hits the rail here, it's going to come off this way. Is that lined up to the pocket?
Nope.
Nope. So what you have to do is you have to figure out, and believe it or not, you use the diamond, not the edge of the rail.
Okay.
So figure out a line between the diamond and the ball. And when I say the diamond, I just mean somewhere along
Yeah. No,
this
I
area.
understand.
So the diamond to the ball and the diamond to the pocket. You want to figure out a spot where the angle is the same in and out,
Mm-hmm.
right? Not like this, not like this,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
See, this points at the pocket, this points at the ball, but you can see that's not an equal angle in
Yep.
and out.
Yep.
You find that spot right here, that's what you aim the ball at,
Okay.
okay?
Yep.
So other than that, pretend that this is the pocket, but you gotta hit the center of that pocket. If
Mm-hmm.
you hit over here, you're gonna miss. If you hit over
Yeah.
here, you're gonna miss. You have to be very accurate on this.
Yeah.
So, but bank shots are tough. Don't be too concerned if you miss.
I'm not too worried.
And once you have all of that, and you've got your aim, and you're down in the shot, and you think that you need to trust it,
Mm-hmm.
you need to have the confidence to stroke straight through, nice and straight. Very good. It's online, just didn't shoot hard enough.
Yep.
But it was good. It was very good. How you feeling so far?
I feel good.
Yeah?
It's fun.
How you feeling about everything we've covered?
Good. It's a lot, and I feel like as soon as I'm focused on one thing, I lose the thing before. Like
Mhm.
I was just noticing to myself, my grip was back to the fisty
Sure.
grip.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's just a lot of information, right? But
It's a checklist that you need to go through.
yeah,
Just like the checklist when you're driving your car, flying a plane. Right?
Sure.
You gotta go through the checklist. After a while, it'll just become second nature. That's a tough shot. And there's techniques to shooting shots like that. Like this one here,
mm-hmm.
try this one. What you wanna do is you wanna shoot it, you're basically hitting both the rail and the ball at the same time.
Yeah,
When you can, use topspin. If the topspin is gonna get you in a bad position, then you gotta try to do something else, then you deal with that at the time.
okay.
But for the most part, topspin.
And would you
Just-
would you put left on it or
No.
no?
Well, sometimes, like I said, it just depends on what you're trying to do.
Sure. Yeah.
You know, if you're trying to get to this position, the cue ball's gonna go that way, right? So
Yeah.
my left spin's gonna have it come around here and come back for this ball.
Yeah.
But, I mean, just right now, we're just focused on making the
Making
ball.
a shot.
Just hit with about one tip of topspin, one tip high. Just follow through on the shot. You hit the ball slightly first, which is fine.
Like you're giving me a little less angle each time.
I'm giving you a different angle.
It's generous.
I'm giving you a different one. I told you, every shot's the same. It doesn't matter if it's less angle, more angle. Yeah, so you hit the rail first that time.
Yeah, overcompensating.
Exactly. Don't overcompensate, just shoot the shot. And this is no different, right? Than any other shot.
Yeah.
You're still shooting at the ghost ball.
Yep.
Try to hit that as best you can, hit it high, and give it a little bit more firm. A little more firmer shot. Nice. That's all about. It's about aim, but it's also about technique, you know. Sometimes, like that second ball that you shot, this one here, something like that, you want to hit the rail slightly first. You actually want to aim to barely miss the 7, so kind of like that, with some left-hand English. And believe it or not, that ball will go in most of the time when you do that. Try it.
With left-hand English.
With left-hand English, so you're spinning this way into the ball. So it's spinning, hits the rail, hits the
I
ball.
see. I see. Yep.
So you want to put left-hand English on it. Now, when you put the left,
Mhm.
you don't want to turn into it. You need to shift the cue over.
I
So
see.
your aim line's here, but your shot line is here. Make sense?
Yep.
Good. It's a tough shot. It's, you know, it's a low percentage shot, but it's a higher percentage when you do what you. And remember what I said. A little firmer. With shots that react with the rail, if you shoot soft shots, they don't quite react with the rail that they would. Here's the problem. When you hit the rail, it's fairly elastic. Elastic meaning, I don't know if you're familiar with the term, but elastic. This is a very, very high elastic reaction, right?
Yep.
If there's compression, it's less elastic. But with a slow shot, there's very little compression there.
I
It comes
see.
right off. It's a more elastic. But if you shoot it hard,
It digs in.
it
for a
digs in
second.
and compresses that rail.
Yeah.
And the physics of that is very different.
Sure.
So a shot like this, you want a good firm stroke.
Yeah.
So give that another try, just to kind of get a feel for it. And remember that your aim line is straight here, but from the center of the ball, but you want to be parallel to that.
Yeah.
Nice and firm. When you're aiming this shot, there's a couple of factors. One, you're trying to hit the rail slightly first.
Yeah.
The other is, when you use left-hand English, it does introduce a little bit of squirt on the ball, which means it's going to drive the ball a little bit to the right when
Sure.
you do left English.
Yeah.
There are ways to compensate for that. We're not going to go into that. It's very complicated. But know that you actually want to hit a little fuller into the ball than you would with a center
Okay.
ball hit.
Okay.
So I would probably aim this as if you're going to hit the rail and the ball at the same time, and then the English will kind of force it to move over a little bit. There you go. Boom. Nice. A little bit more advanced than what we're really trying to cover tonight, but just to give you an idea, just different shots and how they react.
Yeah.
So. Okay. So fundamentals we went over. You feel pretty good about those?
Yeah.
I'm gonna send you an email that kind of covers all of this stuff.
Okay.
Just refresher, and then you can refer to that whenever.
Yeah.
I also have a book for you that we're gonna work through a couple of those things, and there's some really good drills in there.
Okay.
So your aim looks pretty good. Is the ghost ball method pretty much your method of aiming, or what do you think you're using?
I don't know what I'm saying. Is
That's
the answer.
fine. No,
I think definitely in terms of lining up the object ball, I use a contact point method. Like, I know where I want to hit the contact point on the
Okay.
object ball.
That's great.
But then how the cue ball interacts with that is very intuitive, and I wouldn't say it's either contact to contact or ghost ball. It's just sort of
Right.
like, it seems like it should
Right.
go here.
You just know where the contact point is, and you're trusting your feel
Yeah.
to put it in the right spot for that.
Yeah.
And that's good. That's actually what I teach is kind of a hierarchy. You start with the ghost ball method, then we talk about contact point. And in order to get people to understand that concept, what I do is I line up a ball like this. The center of that is your contact point. I line this cue ball up here, and this little triangle here is the contact point that you're aiming at this contact point.
Sure.
Try to visualize those two striking each other, and then even though the line from the contact points is here, your aim is parallel to that.
Yep.
And you just kind of have to visualize that. And that's what these are here for. These are the different degrees of, and this is actually pretty interesting. So this is 15 degrees, this one's 30 degrees, and this one's 45 degrees. Okay. This is actually 14 degrees, this is 49 degrees. But what it is this right here, this is a full ball hit, right? This is where we're aimed at the center of this ball, and the overlap of those two balls is a full ball, right? Total eclipse.
Yep.
When we shoot from here, this 14, 15 degrees for straight into the pocket. Obviously we could shoot it straight in, right? But we're talking about aiming right here.
Yep.
This is a 15 or 14 degree cut. This is a 3/4 ball hit. And what that means is full ball hit, half ball hit, right? The edge of this ball is in the center of that ball, so half of the ball is overlapping. A 3/4 ball hit is like that. If you think about shooting this into this, that's what the overlap looks like between the two balls. It's a 3/4 inch or 3/4 ball hit.
Yeah.
This right here is a half ball hit. And what's really cool about the half ball hit on 30 degrees is that you can actually aim this ball right at the edge of that ball. right?
Yeah.
Because that's what you're doing. You're
Yeah.
aiming, it's the center of the ball aimed at the edge of the ball. It's a half ball hit,
Yeah.
right? So if you can calculate 30 degrees, and you can, 30 degrees is kind of a relaxed peace sign.
Okay.
You line that up. So what you do is you're looking at the line of the shot versus the line of the path of the object ball.
Mm-hmm.
So the difference between this and this. So my peace sign is like this, right?
Mm-hmm.
I put the base, the V of this right at the contact point of the ball.
Mm-hmm.
I can see that this is going to go straight into the pocket
Mm-hmm.
at this angle. So if you have that angle on your shot, you know you're at 30 degrees, you know you have a half ball hit. And what's great about that is it's super accurate because that's half a ball, right?
Yeah.
Another way to visualize it when you want to practice, this is a great way to practice. And it also kind of proves the 30-degree rule, right? So, you know that this is an equilateral triangle between the centers of all those, right?
Mm-hmm.
60 degrees on each corner.
Yeah.
Half of that is 30 degrees, right?
Yeah.
So the line between this line here and this line here, we know that's 30 degrees.
Yep.
Exactly 30 degrees, right? So what's cool about that is when I shoot this ball this way and aim at the edge, this ball is going to travel at 30 degrees.
Yep.
So I can set up a shot like this, right? So I know that that's lined up into the pocket.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm going to do is to account for throw. Are you familiar with what throw is?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Friction between the balls. Friction between the balls, if I hit the ball this way, instead of this going on a line like this, it wants to go on a line like this.
It wants to go a little extra that
A little extra this way, just
Sure.
a little bit.
Yeah.
We can actually show that. So these are parallel to the rail. And you can watch the 6-ball. See how it
drifts towards the rail.
Yep. So there's a little bit of throw, but we're not going to worry about that too much. For a shot like this, let's say you're shooting at this shot right here. If you line this up, half ball hit, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can see that's pretty close to the spot. So you can shoot the shot. Go ahead.
Sorry, I'm. Oh, I see.
So shoot this shot. And all you have to do is aim at the edge of the 3-ball. Your aim point is the very edge of that. It's a very precise point to aim at.
Yeah.
Right there. You're straightening your shot out a little bit. Pre-shot routine, same thing. Doesn't matter how easy the shot is,
Sure.
how tough the shot is, the same pre-shot routine. Line up your aim, stand behind it, drop your cue onto that line. You try and keep your elbow, your shoulder, your back foot all in that line. There you go. Ooh, little overcut. So when you talk about aim, there's so many systems out there. I don't recommend most systems. I like the ghost ball is good for for absolute beginner players, and to kind of reinforce certain concepts, you know, when we're talking. So if I talk about the ghost ball, you know, and I line this shot up here, this helps you visualize from the 30 degrees that your aim point, you go over there and look at your aim point is the edge of the
Yep,
sixth ball,
totally.
right?
Yep.
Whereas if you're shooting from here, you can see that you're aimed, forget how this works.
It's a quarter ball. I can see it
Yeah.
already.
Yeah, but it's a quarter of a ball, so the edge is halfway between this edge and the point of the ball. It's a quarter ball hit.
Yep.
And the same thing with this, with three quarter ball hit. You can see that the center of this ball is between the halfway point on the six and the edge.
Yep.
Halfway. So, as a concept, I think you're beyond the ghost ball, and the fact that you use the contact point and then you just kind of use your instinct to get the cue ball to that contact point, that's perfect. And now hit a million balls doing that, and you'll get a feel for it to the point where you never even really have to think about it. It just works, and you'll even get to the point where this is one of my favorite drills. This is kind of a fun one to practice. So put this somewhere on the table, anywhere you want. Okay. Now, to make things a little trickier, put that in a space where you think it's going to block me.
You're trying to position the cue
I'm going
ball
to put the cue ball
in that box?
in that box. So try to put that sixth ball somewhere to block me. You can put it right here. You can put it here, whatever you want. Okay. Not quite enough angle. Let's try to make sure I missed that sixth ball. Let's try a different way.
And that was deep draw and hard left.
Deep
but
draw and hard lefts to make it come back here and then
spin
spin
off
off
the
that
rail.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And the fact that you understand that that's fantastic.
Would I have ever thought to play it is a separate question. But
So, what I'm going to do instead is do a stun with some right hand spin. A little tiny
with
bit
the,
of
with the
fall.
goal being to come like that.
Exactly. There we go. And the great thing is you saw the two very extreme shots, extremely different shots, with the same exact setup. This is in the center of the table. This is exactly halfway between, aimed at the center of the pocket.
Yep.
So if I really wanted to, I could even do something like this. This is really hard on this table because it's not super fast. But
Trying to do 3 rails.
Oops.
2, 3. Was that the thought?
Yes. Let's give it one more try. And this is one of the ones that definitely need to chalk. So what I'm doing is I'm cheating the pocket this way to make sure that the cue ball comes off in this direction.
Yep.
And then the spin and the follow hopefully will kind of give some extra speed to the ball to help it get around the table. Which is very difficult on this table especially. This isn't super fancy cloth. On a 7-foot table you usually don't want to put like the Simonis cloth on it because it'll just
be
keep
flying
going,
everywhere.
going, yeah. Yeah, some pool rooms will actually do that. I play in some tournaments. Man, you hit that ball and it just it's like playing on glass, you know, it just keeps going and going and going. But yeah, that's, that right there is, that's where we're starting to get into position. I don't know if I want to overload you.
Yeah.
Cue ball position is a topic that we could probably cover in a couple of 2-hour lessons.
Yep.
But the cool thing is that there are some fundamental things that we can get you started on that will go down that path later.
Yeah.
And that gets us into our progressive practice too. So this is yours. And what this is, progressive practice it's a controlled method of practicing shots that allows you to actually measure how well you're progressing, how well you're doing. So for an example, one of them is for follow shots, right? And what you're gonna do is you're gonna shoot 10 shots. And they're all, and this is for follow. Okay, so what we're doing is we're doing a follow drill, or progressive practice. And you're going to start with the ball here, and the cue ball one diamond away. Simple shot. Okay, so actually, since you're left-handed, you can do it on this side, but it's actually a good idea to practice this on both sides. But
And goal is just to follow it into the pocket?
nope, not for this one. One of them is, one of the progressive practices is, one of the tougher ones is to follow it into the pocket. For this one, this diamond to the rail, this whole area, that's your target zone.
Okay.
Pretty simple. So make the ball in the pocket, you have to make it, and then follow the cue ball into the gray zone. That's this right here. And I'll show you what that looks like in the progressive practice. There's a couple of pages that kind of just talks about progressive practice and how it's used and why you use it and all of that. Gives you an example. And this is the actual progressive practice, starting with the one. So, this is the follow shot. You're going to move both balls, right? So on your next shot, you're going to move back one diamond.
Okay.
And this shows that you're going to move both. Whereas on the stop shot one, you're only going to move the cue ball and your object ball stays in one spot.
Okay.
Okay? You're going to move them back. If you miss, you move forward. If you make it, you move back.
Okay. But the zone you're trying to leave the cue
The
ball is
zone
always the same.
is that zone right there. That gray zone, it's always the same, yeah. So, go ahead and make that ball. This one's easy. You don't have to start with one, you can start with wherever you feel comfortable starting, because because ultimately this is going to find what your average is after over 10 shots.
Sure.
Or not your average, but where your break-even point is.
Yeah.
And you can set those two balls up any way that you want to, as long as you follow into the zone. Make sure you make that ball. If you miss it and still get in your zone, it's still a miss.
Yeah.
So this would be 3. Always one diamond apart. So, let's talk about follow shots. So you missed, we're going to go forward.
Yeah.
A follow shot, when you're shooting, when you're shooting, you're going through your pre-shot routine, you're doing all that stuff in your aim. One of the things that we didn't really talk about, but you want to make sure that your tip is right at the contact point where you want to hit the ball. All right. So if you want to hit one tip up, which you should be doing on all follow shots, that's one tip up. That's where you should be holding the cue. Your practice strokes and stroking through, keeping your cue level. If you have a tendency to come up, that's a bad habit that we definitely need to break, because you see what happens. The moment you start coming up, your cue is not going to hit the point that you were trying to hit, which is down here.
Yeah.
That's why you leave it level and follow through. That way you always hit it.
And so to go from sun to follow, you're adjusting the height of your bridge, and your backhand is basically doing nothing to change the height?
Yes, correct. You always want to have your cue as level as you possibly can. Sometimes that's not easy to do because because just happens to be the length of the shot, your knuckles are like right on the edge of the table.
Sure.
So you kind of have to, you have to raise up just a little bit,
Yeah.
but always as level as possible.
Okay.
So look at how high your back end is up. See that?
Yeah. That feels close at a level.
You barely made that one.
Yeah.
This doesn't require a whole lot of, follow doesn't require a whole lot of effort because the ball naturally wants to roll forward.
Yeah.
So as long as you hit above center, it's already gonna be naturally rolling forward. Uh-oh.
Causing trouble.
Oh shit. Can you get it?
Yes.
Oh, good. Always worry about that one rolling down in there.
About to be out for a pool table. So did that one did I barely make it because I came up in the back
You did
end?
come up, yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna try something here. Alright. So I have this camera angle that allows us to watch what you're doing. Flip it around. Okay. So go ahead and get down on this shot right here
Mm-hmm.
and just shoot it in.
With follow again?
Yeah. That was good. So let's do this shot. Go back one. No. Yeah, there you go.
Back.
So, it's recording it right now, so you'll be able to watch that back
Okay.
later. But, you're not coming up. I think what you're doing is you're just not aiming high. But one thing you'll notice, and one thing that we want to correct,
Mm-hmm.
is your back arm is kind of angled like this.
Mhm.
Some of your shots, not all of your shots are like that.
Mhm.
So what you want to do, it's difficult to correct that, but what you can do is you can kind of close your stance a little bit, so you're kind of twisting it more this way, so your shoulder's more over the back leg, but you can also rotate your shoulder back.
Okay.
Okay? When you're shooting, your back arm should be straight up and down, not just vertical in this direction, but vertical in this direction as well. It should be straight up and down.
Okay.
That way when you're stroking, you're not doing, because if you're like this, then your stroke is gonna do this.
Yeah.
Right? Make
Yeah.
sense? And then
Yeah.
you're gonna be off angle.
Yeah.
Slight angle, that way it follows to the rail rather than the pocket. Hit just straight through that point on the cue ball, up high. Nice. Good. Now remember your grip. Actually grip the cue. There you go. And remember to hit it tip high. Poke it straight through. When you're doing that, you're kind of coming up a little bit. You're not lifting your elbow and your shoulder as much, but you're kind of like lifting up your arm.
Okay.
And when you do that, the tip goes down.
Yeah.
That's why you want to make sure that the middle of your stroke, right there, straight up and down, your tip is right on the cue ball, right? So that way you're following through right at that point. All right. just for fun. We're not really recording this right now, so let's try a little bit longer one.
Fail with the shorter ones. Let's go longer.
Well, it's not a failure,
Yeah.
it's not a failure.
I know.
It's just, what I want you to do is I want you to focus on following through and hitting the cue ball one tip above center. So, right up on top of the cue, tip right on the cue, your back arm should be straight up and down.
I feel like I run out of cue.
You're very tall.
Yeah.
One of the things that you can try to do is you can bend your arm a little bit more, and then that way you can get a little closer with your bridge. And then your back arm should come up. See, now you're kind of far back on it. There you go. Straight up and down. Want to hit about a tip above the top of the cue, or above the center of the cue, and just follow through. There you go. Got to make the ball. But you notice the ball went farther and you didn't have to hit it that hard.
Yeah.
As long as you hit it up high, you don't have to kill the ball.
Yeah.
Even on number 7, and of course 7's easier to do, even though it's the longest one, because you're actually just off the rail. I didn't have to hit it real hard. As long as I hit high, it's gonna take off. So that's the follow shot. That's your progressive practice for that.
Okay.
You'll notice that as you go up in number, they get harder. So with this one here, you gotta leave it in the shaded area, 1 diamond square. You can't just put it anywhere along the road. You have to put it right near the pocket. For 3, you have to follow it into the pocket. Follow to scratch. So you actually have to follow it into the pocket. This is harder to do. And then here, this is interesting because you have to make the ball, but you have to follow it to these specific points. So they get harder and harder, and you won't be at 4 and 5 for a long time.
Yep.
So what you're gonna do is you're gonna do 10 shots, just like you just did. Each, you can start wherever you want. Anytime you miss, you go down 1 number, and anytime you make it, you go up 1 number.
Yep.
Your final shot, if you make it, you go up a number and score that. So on the 10th shot, if the 10th shot you're on 6 and you miss, your score is 5. If you're on 6 and you make it, your score is 7. You record those scores back here. So you're playing set number 1. These are the 4 different things. So you're doing B, so you mark your number 6 there. And then as you're doing all of them, you total it and divide by 4 to get your score. And what you're shooting for is about a 4 or a 5 on average.
Okay.
For all of them. If you do that, obviously you want to try and get 7 on all of them, right?
Yep.
But if you get to about a 4 or 5, you can probably comfortably go to the next level.
Okay.
The harder ones. So the 4 progressive practices are: 1B is the one that we were just doing. A is the stop shot. Okay. Are you familiar with stop shots?
Yep.
Okay. Are you familiar with a stop shot from across the table? What
Like
you have-
putting
what
a
you have-
little putting a little bit of draw on it, so that
Exactly, exactly. So this helps you to kind of judge that. So from here, you need to stop it inside this 1 square with the ball right in front of the pocket, just like that. You can't hit the back rail, so it can't follow into the back rail.
Okay, and it's against the object ball's against the rail.
It can be against it or slightly off of it, just in front of the pocket, because you're trying to stop it right there. As long as it stops inside this square, that's a success. So you're gonna start here, and then that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 7 is back here by the back pocket. Actually, no, I'm sorry. So this ball is right in front of the pocket. So this is 1. 7's your hand.
Okay.
So with a up close, you don't need draw. You just center ball, right? Just to pop it in, it's real simple. Farther back you go, a little bit lower on the cue ball. And that'll kind of help you learn that touch, just how much draw to put on it. And, you know, remember what we talked about with the fist bridge, that might help you. But the draw shot is exactly the same as the follow shot. You just hit one tip low. One tip low, right? And on this case, you may need to raise your butt a little bit. You notice on mine, I'm not right on the rail.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll use the fist bridge just to bring it down so that I am as level as possible. Especially if I'm doing a power draw. And I'm back here, shooting a ball in there, and then you come all the way back. I need a lot of draw. I'm gonna be as level as possible and as low as possible. I'm really stretching the limits. But it's okay if you're elevated a little bit. You do not want to draw like this, okay?
Yeah.
You want to be as down as level as you can. So we're not doing a draw shot, we were doing a stop shot, but the draw shot's the same thing.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're going to be a little bit lower. But the draw shot, the same ball position, starting here, and the object has come back beyond one diamond. It's a relatively easy draw shot, because there's not a whole lot of control to it, it's just draw back. So even from back here, you're just going to hit it low, follow through, back beyond the diamond, you're good. Okay, that's a success. So that's your draw shot, very similar to the stop shot, just a little different. The last one is a cut shot. And this just basically shows you where the object ball goes. In this case, you can line up your 1 through 10 along this rail here and just set them up. So it's going to be halfway between the diamonds, which the diamond, just so you know, on this rail is the edge of the rail.
Okay.
So right there. So halfway between those two, an inch off. So you can see it's a relatively easy shot. But you need to make sure that you make it from each diamond in the center of the table. And it shows you the positions there.
Yep.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 7's a little bit tougher cut, but again, you're just aiming at the contact point. Thin cut. That's all you gotta do.
Okay. No position play on that one.
No position play. On this one, you're just putting the ball where it says to put it, and then making that ball in the pocket. So that's page 1.
Okay.
That's set 1
Yeah.
For the progressive practice. Set 2 is just a little bit tougher. This
It'll
one,
be a minute till I get
yeah.
there.
On this one, you just have to stay within, I think that's 9 inches. Yeah, 9 inches of the object ball. You could just measure your hand like that.
Sure.
That's probably close to what it is. Especially if you're doing it on a 7-foot table, it's going to be less than 9 inches. So just use a radius, you know, wherever you're setting the ball. If you keep the cue ball in that radius, it's success. Smaller square. On this one, you've got to draw back to where the cue ball was.
Okay.
So you shoot from 3, you've got to draw back to 3 or beyond. And then this one, the cut shot, you notice it's on the diamond an inch away. Instead of here, it's here, and your balls are from here. And you got to cut that in. A little bit tougher shot. And then of course it just gets harder as you go along. This one here, you have to stop it within 1 ball width. And this one here, you have to follow it into the pocket. The draw shot, you have to draw back to the position you're at, but no more than 2 diamonds past. So it's more precise. And then this one, the cut shot is from here all the way along the rail. That's a tough one. This is really hard. You're getting into semi-pro and pro shots when you start getting into 4. This one here, you got a cut shot into the corner pocket. You start with 1, which is a straight in shot. but then you go back and then you cut over here, and you have to make all the balls in that pocket. That one's hard, very hard. So, yeah. So this one here, this is just a target that allows you to kind of have more precise drills. You know, if you're working on position and you want to shoot this shot and you shoot it over and over again. Here's one that I practice a lot, which is why I have the circles on there. So I'll set this shot up, and this one here, and then I'll put this right here. And I'll try a couple of different shots. One of them might be just a Z shot, which is a little bit of right, a little bit of follow, a lot of follow actually, but a little bit of right. I have a little bit too much right on there. So I'm just trying to gauge just how much spin, how much follow, how hard to hit it, all that kind of stuff. And this is where I'm trying this shot, and I'm just building up a catalog in my brain, right?
Yep.
I'm really not trying to do too much here, but I do know a little bit more follow on this one. It's a half ball hit, tiny bit of right. That was a lot better. And then I might do exactly the same setup, but I want to work on my draw position, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I want to draw with right, same exact shot, half ball hit. Just trying to get position on that. Maybe after I work on that, I'll work on something here. So it's a little bit. And on this one here, I want to actually come off the back rail. So just really good for targeted position practice.
Yep.
We haven't really gotten into that with our lesson, but when we start really talking about it, I'm assuming that you want to do some more lessons at some point.
Yep.
We'll get into position play, and we're going to go more into draw and follow, different techniques there. Cue ball spin, how much spin, because believe it or not, this spin shot is different than this spin shot, right? This one here will go about one diamond, maybe a little less. But it's pretty consistent. Whereas if I go a full tip over, so learning how to apply spin, just like follow and draw, it's, you're aiming at a point on the ball and following straight through and making sure that you hit that target.
Yeah.
But that's gonna, what running English versus hold up English is, running English. So if I hit left here, it kind of runs along the rail. Whereas if I hit right hand English, kind of stops it. So just things like that. There's a lot to cover when it comes to getting cue ball position, but there's two aspects of this game that are going to get you to being really good at the game. One, make balls. Two, put the cue ball where you need to for the next shot. If you can do those two things, you can run the table.
That sounds as easy as that.
Exactly. It's simple. It's a simple game, but it's not an easy game.
We maybe look at my draw shot a little bit?
Yeah.
Because I do have on the draw have a very strong propensity to miscue.
Okay.
And scoop the ball.
Sure. So we'll do a relatively simple setup, simple drill. Just put the ball here, cue ball in the center, and just do a draw shot. And you wanna try to draw it straight back. A lot of times what I'll do to practice is just put a ball here and try to make them both, but let's see what you got.
Was I not low enough, or what?
You were low enough all the way up until the point where you hit the wall, and then you raised up a little bit.
I see.
Nice. Try to hit these. Whenever you're practicing drills, try not to isolate the one thing that you're doing.
Uh-huh.
Try to focus on a couple of things. So in this case, what I want you to focus on is hitting this as straight as possible. I want to come straight back at the stick. Okay. So you want to aim, but you also want to hit it low and follow through. And when you're using the fist bridge, the thing that you have to remember with that, first you're going to have to be fairly close, because if you're too far away and you do it properly, you're going to hit the table, and when you do that, you'll scoop it.
Yeah.
The other thing is keep your thumb on the table. Make sure your thumb does not come up. A lot of people have a tendency to lift up
I see.
as they're shooting.
Okay.
Right? Try not to do that. If you stick your pinky out, that'll kind of help you stay more stable and prevent you. You know, you can't. It's a little harder to rotate your hand up.
Yeah.
With the pinky out. Personally, I feel this is more stable for me. This is why I do it this way. Make sure your thumb's, yeah, see, there you go. Thumb on the table. Make sure this stays down. And then just nice and easy, relax. Relax and just follow through. So what I want to see is a little bit more deliberate stroke, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So your stroke, not really like this, but more like follow through.
Okay.
And you're going to hit the table very soon after the end of your after your stroke. It's okay. Just 1, 2, follow through. Beautiful. Nice. Straight back. Good draw. And get used to doing that same thing. Do the same stroke, same cadence, same power, and try to repeat the same thing. After that, then you can start varying the amount of power you use to vary the amount of draw that you apply.
Sure.
Now, try to be a little bit closer. Make sure that thumb, your whole thumb, is on the table. There you go. Same thing you just did. Follow through.
I don't feel what was different about that one versus the last shot.
Okay. Let me let's record a couple, and then we can look at it.
Yeah.
We can look at it later. Okay, so. Okay. That was actually pretty good. And you kept your thumb down. Let's try that. Good. Good. One more. What I find interesting is when we're focusing on it and we're looking at it and everything, you look like you're a lot more focused on making sure that you're doing everything right. All three of those are perfect.
Yeah.
So that's the difference. If you try one of these draw shots and you feel like you're hitting them low, but it doesn't come back the way that it did on those three shots, then you are lifting up. You're lifting up your thumb. Okay? Get used to trusting, and when you chalk, by the way, let me see it. So you want to bring this down into light. Okay, look at that tip. You see that?
Yeah.
So hold on. So when you're chalking, you're not chalking the top. When you go to do a draw shot, you're hitting the ball low, right? Off center. Look what part of the tip is actually hitting the ball, right?
Yep.
The edges. And you can see those edges there's some bare spots. So what you want to do is right along the edge like that. You want to make sure that the whole round tip is a uniform color all the way around, just like that. Okay? Because sometimes, even though you didn't scoop the ball, sometimes you'll hit with one of those bare spots, you'll get a slight miscue. You might not realize you miscued, but it doesn't transfer any spin to the ball.
Yeah.
Right? And so that could also be a reason why. And now that we know that it's chalked up nicely, just trust it. As long as the tip is not on the table at the time you hit the ball, go ahead. You shoot it.
I don't understand.
You shoot. I'm doing the bridge. You do the stroke. So we're a little bit farther away. So what you're basically doing is a controlled stop shot. If you're not following through and getting a really good stroke.
Yeah.
The reason I did that is I wanted to see, is it your stroke or is it the coming up on the ball? And I think it's more of your stroke. So you just want to find that contact point, aim right at it. And when I mean contact point, the contact point of your cue on the ball.
Yeah.
And you want to aim at that point. Follow through. When you're farther away than a diamond, it's going to require that that you do stroke through and make sure that there's a lot of backspin. I want to show you. If you don't hit it that hard, look how long it takes for the natural forward roll to take over. See that?
Yep.
Here's what I really want to happen. Chalk, please. Watch the backspin on this one. That's spun backwards almost all the way to the rail, right? But that requires some speed in order to do that. And you can learn the exact amount of power. This is how you do the stop shots from a long way away. What I'm going to try and do is make it so that it slides past the cue ball, right? Let's see. Pretty close.
Yeah.
So, if you're not hitting it as hard, it's going to lose its backspin pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Right? You still might get some backspin. But what you really want to do on a shot like this where you're this far away, it's not super far away, but it's far enough away that the cloth is going to grab it. Just give it a little bit more of a firm poke, right?
Yeah.
Follow through. And The other thing is, think of it in terms of this. This isn't necessarily true, but you can kind of think about it like this in your brain. When you hit down on the ball, you're driving the cue ball into the cloth.
Yeah.
That's a lot more friction, okay? The whole reason for trying to keep as level as possible is that you're trying to glide across the cloth, right? And if you can do really, really level, then it doesn't take a whole lot of effort, and that cue ball doesn't have a whole lot of contact with it, so it has plenty of time to just keep going with the backspin, hit the ball, and then the residual backspin will bring it back. Try a couple more, and then we'll call it quits.
So when you do the fist bridge, sorry, are you doing fingertip to fingertip again, or where's your point?
Mine's more like this.
Oh, under the thumb. I
Well,
see.
it's not really under the thumb, it's next to the thumb, right? Because I need the
Sure.
thumb to be on the
Yeah.
table. But it's kind of like that. That's how I end up doing it.
Okay.
But that's just what works for me.
Yeah.
So what you want, and then maybe this is, yeah, that's good. You got it. Thumb completely flat on the table and the cue right on the top of your thumb.
Yeah.
Nice. One other thing that I would recommend you do. And this is a subtle thing. So go ahead and get down just exactly like that shot, but I'm going to have you change one little thing. Same exact thing. Fist bridge, nice and low. Okay. Now, we'll rotate your shoulder back a little bit. There you go. Let this straight up and down. Now, bring your first of all, 2 fingers and slide up. There you go. A little bit more. Okay. Try that. Follow through. How'd that feel? A little more controlled.
Very unnatural.
It's a little more controlled though, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So a really good way for you to practice this, in addition to using the fist bridge, is to use a stripe. Put it up here with the stripe horizontal like that, and you should be aiming at the bottom of the stripe. So go ahead and shoot. Use that as a cue ball, and aim your tip at the bottom of the stripe.
Okay.
The center of your tip at the bottom of the
Center
stripe.
of the tip at the bottom.
See how low that is?
Yeah.
As long as you're not touching the table, you should be fine. You're not going to miscue as long as the tip is not touching the table at the same time. What happens when you hit a ball off center, and this is kind of an exaggeration, but what happens is you hit and the cue, see how flexible the cues are?
Sure.
Especially a Q-tech cue, that's a pretty flexible cue. It wants to do that, it wants to flex. So when you hit it, the cue bounces out of the way. So what it'll do is it wants to bounce down and hit the cloth. And it will, it does hit the cloth. But by the time it hits the cloth, the ball is already gone, right? Because when you're striking the cue ball, that's an instantaneous elastic connection and it's gone.
Yeah.
It's an instantaneous hit. So by the time the cue comes down and hits the cloth and wants to scoop the ball's already out of the way. So you're not going to miscue. You're not going to jump the ball. You could miscue, and if you do miscue, it's not going to jump. It's just going to not slide. It's going to be, you're going to feel the tink, and it's just not going to backspin, right? But as long as you have the chalk on there, on the very edges of the tip, and you hit it low, the bottom of that stripe, then you're hitting at the farthest limit to where you won't miscue the stripe. It'll be the same thing when you're practicing your left and right hand spin. Some tips and some cues you can hit the white, but most of it you can't. You'll end up miscuing. But if you aim at the stripe, it'll grab it no problem. So, same thing with the draw, same thing with the follow. So, when you're practicing your follow shot, grab a stripe, grab the 11 ball to do your shots, and you'll realize, hey, I have to hit this pretty high.
Yeah.
It's a lot higher than you think.
Yeah, definitely. I also do wonder how much of this is like fear from playing a lot
Sure.
of kind of shitty bar cues
Exactly.
that have mangled tips.
Exactly. Again, it's your subconscious remembering all the stuff that happened, right?
Yeah.
And so, what you're trying to do is you're trying to replace those. You're trying to supplant that stuff with a proper cue, a proper tip, properly chopped, hitting it in the right spot. You're going to miscue a lot less, and you're going to start developing that muscle memory of good hits, and you won't be as fearful of that. Yeah, because your subconscious is like, I don't want to hit it that low, and it's raising your thumb or dropping your elbow or something in order to make you hit it closer to center.
Yeah.
You were doing that with the follow shots too.
Yeah.
That's why you hit that, it just kind of stops and stuns and doesn't go very far.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
Alrighty.
What do you think is good cadence, and what should I be doing in addition to these drills until I see you next?
I think you should focus on the fundamentals. Like I said, I will send you a recap to kind of talk about the, all the different little aspects of the fundamentals and stuff that we talked about. So it's kind of a checklist. And get on the table, hit some balls, but go through that checklist. This is you getting in the car and practicing all of, making sure that you're hitting all the checkpoints.
Yep.
Just do that over and over again until it feels redundant and you're just like, I know this already, and then hit another rack of balls. Don't think about that as much and see how it feels. Right? But every once in a while, go back and check on those things. Maybe not necessarily every single thing on the fundamentals, but if you find yourself using the fist, try to remind yourself to look at that a lot and go back and and force yourself to get down and shoot a bunch of shots, focusing only on that. Don't focus on everything else. Just get down, shoot some shots, focus on this to the point where this feels comfortable. I feel much better shooting this way than I do shooting like this. Right? Because you'll start to feel like, oh, I don't feel like I have as much control over my cue when I have this. It's like my cue doesn't do what it's supposed to do, right?
Yep.
And it'll start to come natural. So that's what I would do is
Okay.
get on a table, and it's just part of the hit a million balls, but you want focus practice. Hitting a million balls and just hitting them, and you see people who practice just by getting on a table and just hitting rack after rack after rack. They're not really learning anything. They are teaching their subconscious a little bit, but they're not focusing on a specific part of their practice. If you're having trouble with your cut shot, set up a bunch of cut shots and try them. Just keep practicing them. It's all you're doing is training your brain to normalize the game.
Yep.
So,
okay.
how do you feel overall? You feel like this was
Felt fun. Yeah, I feel good.
Yeah, good. I was worried, maybe your back would start hurting, and it's great.
I'm not broken yet. I'll let you know in the morning.
Good.
Sometimes
Maybe.
It might be the next day.
I'm like that too.
But,
it's like I love to play, and I'll go to a tournament and I'll play, and it's like everything's great. The adrenaline's going, and I'm fine. I'm getting a little tired, but oh man, the next day I get a Charlie horse in my calf or something, or something like that. So, you can take that as well.
Okay.
You can have that. And I have a card for you too. So this has, just so it has all my contact information, my email address, and website.
Awesome.
I will, I'm gonna stop this.